And ahead of Election Day, the US presidential candidates have launched their frantic final hours of campaigning to court the last holdouts in this contested election. Let's take a look at the stories that are shaping the race. While the election day is on Tuesday, over 77 million people have already cast their ballots, with nearly 48 hours to go for the day. The figure amounts to just over half of the total ballots cast in 2020. Vice President Kamala Harris also joined the early voters. The Democratic presidential candidate told reporters that she has mailed in her absentee ballot to California as she campaigned in the swing state of Michigan. With the unprecedented early voting numbers, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has doubled down on his predictions of voter fraud in battleground states. He claimed on Sunday that Democrats in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania are fighting so hard to steal the election.
But you ought to damn well go to paper ballots, you ought to go to voter ID, and you ought to have the election over by 9 o'clock. I'm hearing now they're going to take weeks. Can you imagine? They spend all this money on machines, and they're going to say, we may take an extra 12 days to determine. And what do you think happens during that 12 days? What do you think happens?
Republican presidential candidate also complained to supporters about gaps in the bulletproof glass surrounding him at a rally. Trump noted that there were gaps in the panes of the glass around him. He then went on to add that any assassin would have to shoot through the news media to get him, adding, and I'm quoting here, "I don't mind that so much." The former president has escaped 2 attempted assassinations this year, including being grazed in the ear by a gunman's bullet during a July rally in Pennsylvania.
And I have a piece of glass over here, and I don't have a piece of glass there. And I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much, because I don't mind that.
A final New York Times Siena poll on Sunday flagged incremental changes in swing states, but the results from all 7 remained within the margin of error. Meanwhile, Harris got a boost Saturday as the final Des Moines Register poll for Iowa showed a stunning turnaround, with Harris ahead in a state won easily by Trump in 2016 and 2020. Trump dismissed the findings as a fake poll. Harris, desperate to shore up the Great Lakes states known as the Blue Wall, seen as essential to any Democratic victory, spent the day in Michigan. Trump's Sunday timetable centered on Pennsylvania, North Carolina and Georgia, the 3 biggest swing state prizes in the electoral college system that awards states influence according to their population. And of course, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are hitting the trail in the final hours of campaigning in the US election. What are the issues shaping the elections in the final run? WION's assistant editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibbal, has sent us this report from Maryland. Listen to this.
The race to White House is underway. Both the candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, are trying to woo voters, especially in the swing states like Pennsylvania and Michigan. In Pennsylvania, we saw Donald Trump saying that he will start a new golden era, while in Michigan, Kamala Harris has said that page needs to be turned when it comes to hate. All in all, both the candidates have their own views about major issues dominating the elections, including immigration, unemployment, inflation, and foreign policy. When it comes to India, Donald Trump has said that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is his close friend, but he has also said that he might impose tariffs on India. And while Kamala Harris is Indian origin, she hasn't focused much on her Indian identity as much as on her African-American black identity. Also, we know both sides are trying to woo Indian-American voters, both Democrats and Republicans. We saw that Diwali celebrations at the White House, where the US President Joe Biden said that Kamala Harris is a candidate of character, while the Republican candidate Donald Trump focused on the situation of Hindu minorities in Bangladesh, becoming the first major American politician to make such a remark publicly, and it is being seen in the context of the election. So a small community, but an affluent community, especially in swing states like Pennsylvania and Georgia, where their vote can be pivotal. Siddhant Sibal for WION in Maryland, United States.
Now, staying with the US elections, our correspondent Susan Tehrani also brings us more from Times Square in New York. Listen to this.
As the 2024 presidential race comes to a close, the final New York Times Siena poll reveals a virtual tie between Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. The 7 key battleground states are split, with Harris slightly ahead in Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, while Trump has a narrow lead in Arizona and Michigan. Pennsylvania remains deadlocked. Notably, Harris has gained support among young and Black Hispanic voters, while Donald Trump has made inroads with white voters without a college degree. Nonetheless, it's safe to say it's anyone's game come November 5th. And we'll be following up with all of the latest and bringing you all of the latest on WION. I'm Susan Tehrani in the heart of New York City's Times Square for WION with video journalist Niraj Patel.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.